In this existence, countless invisible influences silently shape our lives and define our paths. One of these hidden forces, which is seldom discussed, is energy vampires. They are everywhere, but unlike what we see in movies and fiction stories, they do not wear black capes or have sharp teeth. Energy vampires are individuals who, intentionally or not, drain the energy and emotional vitality of others. They are people who, in some way, manage to leave us completely drained with an inexplicable feeling of sadness. They can feed off goodwill, leading to the mental and physical exhaustion of their victims. Learning about this subject can change your life, because an energy vampire might drain you without you even realizing it. It's necessary to identify the signs and protect yourself. Stay until the end of this video and have enough information to change the course of your trajectory. In 1930, the famous British occultist Dion Fortune explored the subject in her book Psychic Self-Defense. Linking psychic parasitism and its relation to vampirism, she highlighted the importance of being able to identify these vampires. She emphasizes the need to establish effective psychic defenses to maintain energetic and emotional integrity in the face of these subtle threats. Fortune recommends several techniques for protecting oneself from vampirism, including directing energy back to the aggressor and exploring physical and psychic methods to create a protective barrier. In the turbulent 1960s, Anton LaVey, leader of the Church of Satan, brought the term psychic vampire into the spotlight. In his provocative work, The Satanic Bible, LaVey discussed this concept. He was self-proclaimed as the inventor of this term, describing these people as beings who, being emotionally or spiritually debilitated, feed off the vitality of others. Adam Parfrey, in releasing Apocalypse Culture, reiterated LaVey's pioneering by highlighting this intriguing idea. LaVey's view broadened the public understanding of the nuances of human interactions, stimulating awareness of how we energetically relate to others. Contrary to what myths and folklore suggest, energy vampires are not supernatural beings, but ordinary individuals who are by our side and often go unnoticed. We need to study the dynamics of our daily relationships. We need to see which ones give us energy and which ones take it. In other words, we need to understand which ones do us good and which ones harm us. This knowledge, cultivated over decades, serves not only as a defense against these subtle influences, but also as a guide to strengthening our emotional and spiritual health. The idea of energy vampirism describes a dynamic many of us have experienced. Certain people or situations seem to drain our vitality, similar to a resource-heavy app that drains a cell phone's battery. The term energy vampire serves as a powerful metaphor for those individuals who somehow manage to drain our emotional energy. They can be friends, family members, co-workers, or even romantic partners. The result of interacting with these people is often a feeling of exhaustion and emotional emptiness. Although the term is widely recognized and even popularized, it comes with many misunderstandings and negative connotations. So, what exactly is an energy vampire? And crucially, how can we protect ourselves from their influence? The key to understanding energy vampires is to recognize that everyone, including ourselves, can exhibit typical behaviors of one at some point in life. This is because, as mentioned, it is related to behavior and not something that is a permanent part of someone. Nobody is born an energy vampire, but their behaviors can make them one. We can identify if we are acting as vampires by the amount of energy we drain from others during day-to-day interactions. Essentially, the more present and aware we are, the less energy we drain from those around us. Imagine a line that measures our level of self-awareness, starting at a point where we don't care at all about self-knowledge, to a level of deep awareness, the result of a continuous effort to know oneself better and evolve. Energy vampires are closer to the beginning of this line, where a lack of awareness leads them to drain more energy from others. This state of little or no self-knowledge is where many problems and suffering sprout. As someone advances in their own journey of self-discovery, the need to suck energy from others diminishes. We begin to seek cleaner and more positive energy, which comes from harmony and balance with people and the world around us. Therefore, so-called energy vampires are people who have not yet found the light of self-knowledge. They feed on confusion and disconnection, a direct result of their lack of awareness about themselves and how their actions affect others. A curious thing about these people is that they drain energy from others even if they are not aware of it, even if they have no consciousness or intention of harming someone. This exhaustion arises from the fact that, trapped in a state of low consciousness, these people end up demanding a large amount of energy from those around them. Involved in ongoing conflicts, without showing remorse, failing to take responsibility, or focusing exclusively on their dilemmas without seeking solutions, they exemplify how a lack of awareness turns life into a more rudimentary and heavy experience. Acting impulsively, guided by primitive instincts, energy vampires live in a reality of eat or be eaten, seeing the world from a perspective of basic survival. In this universe, some perceive themselves as perpetual victims, finding a certain pleasure in self-pity, while others accept this disposition, enjoying the dramas they create. At their core, these unconscious behaviors reveal that these people inhabit the shadows of the psyche, that mental space that holds what we deny, repress, or have not managed to integrate. Therefore, one of the most crucial steps in anyone's spiritual awakening is to recognize and accept the parts of ourselves that are still obscured by a lack of consciousness. To successfully identify and protect ourselves from spiritual vampires, it's crucial that we first understand how they manifest. That is, what types of vampires there are. Within this spectrum, we find everything from the friend who seems eternally trapped in a cloud of drama and narcissism, always in the midst of some crisis, to the co-worker whose manipulative tactics aim to advance at the expense of others, not to forget those whose behaviors resemble those of criminals with psychopathic tendencies. Diane Fortune mentions different types of energy vampires. Each type, with its distinct characteristics, reveals different strategies for extracting energy from others, leading us to reflect on how we can protect our emotional and psychic vitality. Starting with the victim, we encounter individuals who skillfully place themselves in the role of a victim in any circumstance, in a relentless search for attention and sympathy. This type of person manipulates the compassion of others to obtain support and energy, turning the help and care of others into sources of nourishment for their constant need for validation. As they delve deeper into their tales of misfortune, they often leave a trail of emotional exhaustion in those who get involved in their stories. The narcissists, in turn, display overwhelming egocentrism, constantly orbiting around their own need to be admired and validated. This group of energy vampires feeds on the attention they can extract from others, using their charm and manipulation to ensure they are always the focus, draining the energy of their admirers to sustain their inflated self-esteem. The controllers exhibit a particularly toxic power dynamic. With an intense desire to dominate the situations and people around them, they employ manipulation and control tactics to subjugate the will of others, turning interactions into power games that feed them. Their actions, aimed at imposing their own will, drain the autonomy and energy of those who are forced to yield. Finally, the melodramatics are characterized by their tendency to exaggerate and dramatize circumstances, seeking to attract the attention and emotional energy of others to themselves. This type of energy vampire creates an atmosphere of permanent crisis around them, compelling others to invest their emotions and efforts in situations that are often inflated or distorted, in a constant cycle of drama and exhaustion for those who get involved in their plots. The common thread among these various types is their skill in feeding off those who offer their attention and empathy. Often, the victims are individuals with generous heart who opt to see the positive and good side of others, even when it means neglecting their energy protection. Although energy vampire is not a clinical term or diagnosis, the characteristics associated with these individuals often align with cluster B personality disorders, those marked by dramatic, emotional, or erratic behaviors, which are relatively common. Cluster B includes people with antisocial, borderline, and narcissistic personality disorders, each with specific clinical criteria defined in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders used by psychologists to identify mental health diseases. Prolonged exposure to these dynamics not only depletes our energy, but can result in significant health damage, acting as a source of chronic stress. In situations where the physical or emotional distance from such individuals is not viable, such as in cases involving family or professional relationships, the impact on well-being can be profound, affecting everything from the immune system to neuroendocrine and cardiovascular balance. It is important to emphasize that the behaviors of energy vampires do not originate from a chemical imbalance in the brain, but from a lack of moral consciousness or a misguided ethical compass. In more extreme cases, we find individuals with psychopathic or sociopathic disorders who, despite often being charismatic and persuasive, mercilessly feed on the kindness of others without feeling remorse or guilt. Identifying an energy vampire is not limited to observing the extremes of unethical or selfish behavior. Not everyone who loves being the center of attention fits this profile. When it comes to dealing with energy draining, the strategy to disengage from this dynamic is always the same. Directly confront the person about their actions. Rarely will they admit to their behaviors or anything else that is pointed out to them, and they may even turn the situation against you. Calling these individuals to light, even at the risk of seeming mean or insane, is essential because, just as vampires from legends are repelled by sunlight, energy vampires recoil in the face of consciousness. By confronting them, you illuminate the shadows of their actions. Some of them may completely distance themselves with just one confrontation. Dealing with an energy vampire requires you to be willing to be misunderstood, allowing them to accuse and portray you in a distorted manner, instead of remaining a hostage trying to defend yourself and prove your worth, which would only drag you back into their toxic dynamic. Accept the loss. The next step to distance yourself from an energy vampire is to take responsibility for what we share in common with that person or group. We should avoid the trap of martyrdom, which would return us to the victim role. Beyond the initial confrontation and distancing, which serve as a crucial step to illuminate the actions of these individuals, the main focus is the preservation of our own energy and emotional well-being. What can we do to protect ourselves? What daily actions can we take to prevent our energy from being sucked by these spiritual vampires? One of the most effective measures is to establish clear and impenetrable boundaries. This means you are only obligated sometimes to be available to satisfy these people's demands. Learning to say no and ending interactions that prove to be draining is essential for your emotional health. Although it's not always possible to eliminate contact with energy vampires, it's vital to limit the time and energy invested in these relationships. This may mean distancing yourself physically, or in contexts where total separation is not viable, looking for ways to minimize the impact of these interactions on your life. You might refuse invitations that could put you in vulnerable situations, or take brief breaks during the workday to recharge your energy. Remember the power of self-care. Engaging in activities that revitalize your energy, such as joyful hobbies, interactions with people who radiate positivity, and practicing relaxation techniques like meditation or yoga, are essential for maintaining your emotional balance. Invest in self-awareness to identify your vulnerabilities and bolster your self-esteem. Understanding your strengths and weaknesses makes it easier to recognize when you are more susceptible and need greater protection. Visualization techniques, such as imagining an energy shield around you, using mantras, positive affirmations, or spiritual practices, can strengthen your energy field and offer a barrier against drainage attempts. By adopting these strategies, we not only protect our vital energy from energy vampires, but also promote a state of well-being and harmony that allows us to navigate life with greater lightness and joy, regardless of the challenges that may arise. If this video made sense to you, write in the comments, "It makes sense to me." Remember to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell to receive all the latest teachings.